Proudly supported by Event Logistics. Let them look after your next folk festival.
This program is proudly brought to you by the Peel Dance Bar, corner of Peel and Wellington Streets, Collingwood.
Peel, where else would we be? The Peel, Tom. We're still hungover as usual because we're at the Peel. Hey, not only do we have a bunch of blacks taking your pub over a couple of weeks back, and we've got a bunch of lesbians. It's becoming a lesbian bar. It's going to be called Licker Lounge, not the Peel any longer, so be warned. This is blah, blah, blah. We're talking about lesbian venues or liquor lounges or whatever. And I've got a lesbian next to me. Hello, Anna.
Hello, Graeme.
God, we're good at this hour of the morning, aren't we?
Yeah.
Evening, I should say. Anna was here last night on Sunday night with me till very late, and we had a great time, didn't we? We were quite happy to buy those inexpensive drinks. God, we're liars, aren't we? Hey, listen, I want to introduce the guests. I want to start right over here. We've got White Trash Boy as usual. As soon as the director switches the camera, which is going to happen any second, Drew, White Trash Boy, is over here. We all know Drew. He's not really a lesbian, though he thinks he's accepted by liquors.
Lesbian.
Oh, shut up.
I was made one recently.
How do you get made a lesbian?
Oh, I don't know. You ask them if they're Drew.
Oh,
they just want me to be a lesbian.
Yeah, we'll find this one out later. Now, next to Drew, we've got Rodney. He's a capitalist. Yes, Rodney owns the Glass House and Trade Bar. So if you want to hit this guy for sponsorship money, which we're doing right now to sponsor a show, otherwise we'll destroy the tape with it, whether it's vicious. Rodney owns 2 venues. And next to Rodney is the famous Tracey Wall. Now, I've known Trace for a while. We were on opposite teams in the rock and roll industry for quite a while. That didn't faze us. It was in the Push days and the Rock Foundation days. And she set up the Caviar Club, and she still runs Big Day Out, though those boys think they do. I'm sorry. They do. But they're such heterosexual boys. They think they run it, but you run it. We know that. The Also parties. And, of course, Trace was head of Midsummer, a fine festival, which we all remember from 18 years ago when some idiot had a dream. Anyway, going right across the other side of the room, we have the pseudo-intellectual Quentin Buckle as usual, the man that tries to make us look intelligent, and one of the co-producers of this show, Lesbiana, Miss Jude. Jude, Lesbiana, she owns it, she runs it, she produces it. Hello, welcome, everyone. Now, we're going to talk about liquor lounges, lesbian places. And I want to start with you, Jude, because you put this show together. What do you think about lesbian lounges and why do they exist? And tell us about the community.
Well, they exist, but once they good bars set up, they don't seem to last long. And I'm just wondering, why don't women's bars have longevity? And maybe, is it because women who come to terms with their sexuality don't come to it till later in their life? Maybe they're not interested so much in dancing around, maybe they're looking for something a little quieter.
Okay, stop on that point. You're a 20-year-old lesbian, I know, and I met you when you were 17.
That's correct.
You were a little rough bitch from the outer fucking western suburbs.
That's true.
Northwestern, I had to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Now, you hit the dance scene really young, and you still go out.
Yeah.
You grew, Jude, about...
Yeah, well, when you're young and you're coming out, you go anywhere.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of true. Look at the crew.
Anything, you read every bit of literature that there is, you sort of, and I don't go out as much. It's probably because
She's got a girlfriend now, that's why. I just thought I'd mention that.
But I think it's because I live in the area, so I do, it's a local, bars and pubs, and my friends are in the scene too, so that's why I go.
So that's why you go. Now, back to you, Jude. I want to hear, but you think a lot of lesbians come out at an older age?
Yeah, well, some women come out at an older age. A lot of women have been through marriages. They've got children. Do they need an alternative sort of venue? Do they have the same spare cash to splash around going out to venues?
Oh, really? So you don't think they're as rich as us males?
Oh, it's a possibility.
Well, I don't know. Let's go over to someone who's made a lot of money out of them. That must be you, Rodney. Because you run the trade bar, but also you own the trade bar, but you also own the Glass Hatch, which was a lesbian venue. But I saw an ad very recently, and it looks like it's changing a bit. Do you agree with Jude? Tell us your experiences.
Alright, well, I think that there are some differences between gay men and lesbians, but there are a lot more similarities than I thought as well. I
Like
think
what?
That, that women basically want to have a good time. There's a big stereotype that women are very serious and that they really want to go out and have a political time, but I think that's old. I think that was something that happened and was part of the lesbian cultural evolution. I think women like to party.
Okay, now Trace, you were 12 when you hit the scene, I know, because I would have been like 14.
Yeah.
Is this true?
I think that is true. I think that the lesbian scene or the lesbian community is just is a smaller microcosm of the community at large, and I think that people found the 80s were much more political time generally. Women were organising around women's issues, things like the anti-Miss Victoria marches, Reclaim the Nights. And again, I remember that in the heydays you'd be at your collective meeting, and then after you'd go,
No,
okay,
a fine thing. That's how we run this place, Bent TV, on a collective.
and then you'd go, okay, where are we going for a drink after it? And then after that, so it was fantastic that the women that you organised with you could also actually then, as Rodney said, go out and have a good time later. So there was a much more integration between, I think, lesbian activists and a lesbian scene, whereas then I think from the outside people saw that they were different beasts, that you're either a political lesbian, therefore boring and want to have no fun, or you're a scene queen and was a mindless, stupid twit, whereas the reality is that many people are well-rounded individuals that enjoy to think and enjoy to party. So,
Well, on that level, you're a young lesbian, as we just mentioned, and you're involved in politics too. Do you reckon that was an era thing in the 80s, or is it still happening?
Oh well, it's not dead. You know, there's still a long way to go and stuff like that, and I don't doubt that. But I just think that scene-wise, it's directed in a different way. It's more of a mixing, and we're more under the queer umbrella rather than the lesbian.
Boys and girls, you know.
We don't sort of. I don't think. Well, my friends anyway. I can only talk about personal experiences that we like to mix more, rather than try and segregate each other off into little groups. Although we do still like to have our own space.
Yeah.
I have chick nights at my place.
And she does too.
I
We're
do,
not invited
you know.
around. In fact, one night I remember walking in there, and before I was thrown out, she was in that big bathroom with her girlfriend and others making love. I didn't want to bring that up on camera though, and because I'm not like that. Drew, you were talking about under 18 ages. I should have said
Well,
something.
I think youth culture is sort of it's mixed now. There's no gay youth culture and lesbian youth culture. I think they're so entwined with each other and they're just moving together now. A lot of the younger ones, they don't see it as us and them anymore. It's just us and we've got to go this way.
I don't know. Tracy's looking sus on that comment. You got that look on your face.
I think that particularly for women and the issue, I agree that it's much more queer, but when you take the words gay, lesbian out of queer, you often then reduce lesbians and certain other subcultures back to be a minority. I mean, I'm a big one for the gay community, big one for queer, but not if queer means monoculture of queer. I mean, queer is many subcultures, and again, there's hardcore dykes. There's many different subcultures within the lesbian community, and my fear about when you present -18 as if this is a new thing. I mean, -18 just is a parody of commercial gay scene, whereas young people have been activists in their student political days or through other interests like music, as you said before. And I'd be hoping that people would find their way in life through their other interests, not just through going out and watching drag queens from the age of 12. I mean, what are you going to do when you're 20?
Watching all the drag queens.
Venues like Monkey and Freakazoid and the Dome, like they're not gay, straight or anything. They're just clubs.
Yeah.
But where anything can go, and I think that's we're talking venues here, and I think that's the direction that venues will be.
I'd say more the point. It's
But
things
youth,
like
within the realms
earthcore.
of youth culture.
I'd say it's more like earthcore, raves, mud. Every picture tells a story.
Right.
Probably, as I said, the gay scene that's reflected by club culture is only a very portion of gay. It's a small fragment of gay life, and I think you'll find that. Where are the lesbian bars? Well, they're not necessarily called lesbian bars, but Brunswick Street was one big lesbian bar for years. It's like you just went from the Black Cat to Mario's to that. Was Saturday morning you just walked the walk and all that. And I think that although there hasn't been many lesbian bars who've had their name in lights for very long, and that's because lesbians don't own the bars. They're just sort of interloping into a space, making it theirs for a night and then leaving. But I think lesbian culture is as healthy as it ever been. I think if anything, it reflects some young lesbians. There's a more consumer culture at the moment, and that's probably the only thing that they want to walk in and want the good time laid on, whether it's a $10 door charge or a $7. Whereas, as I said, I think that there's a new rash of bars and a rash of nights like the Drag Kings, Miss Lesbian Victoria, where really the only entertainment is what you make. It's much more participatory rather than consumer. And as I said, a gay men's culture is very much often based around the bars, is a consumer culture, but they've always had particularly I suppose with HIV and AIDS, a political dimension that men take up to complement that consumer, whether they're consuming sex, drugs, rock and roll, or Kylie Minogue. Lesbians are the same. Like you can go out and consume, or you can equally go out and be a creative force in your community.
Okay, I want to leave your side for a bit. I want to go to Quentin. He said nothing yet. He's a listener, has great knowledge. What do you think about Tracey and the others have said about liquor lounges, lesbian bars?
Well, I was just thinking about, as I said before, like, I don't often go to women-only places. In fact, never, but... on a few of the shows, what I said I'd bring up was some of the women have talked about feeling less safe than they used to in bars because there are more straights, both men and women, in bars, and some women find that threatening. Not because they don't... I don't think anyone's ever said it's because they don't like straights, but because some of the behaviours, like being attacked or being put down, or... One woman on the show sort of said, you walk up to someone, they go, oh, a lesbian, as if, they didn't know they were in a lesbian bar. Yeah. I don't know how women feel about that, now that we're talking about, lesbian venues.
What do you reckon?
What do I reckon? I think in most places I go, I feel safe. Like, I've been to some straight nightclub places, and it's been less threatening there than maybe sometimes going to a women-only place where you know somebody's going to target you.
Okay, we're going to come back and talk about what's safe, what's in, what's out. This is blah, blah, blah. It's Monday night. We're at the Peel, and hell, we're loving ourselves. We'll be back, second segment after the sponsorship break. See you soon. Bye-bye. Licker Lounge, is it? This is blah, blah, blah. I was just talking to Anna, and she wants to go to a lesbian venue without boys for one night. And only one night only, let me
Yes,
tell you
that's
right
so
now. Listen, Jude was just saying before about ownership of bars and stuff like that. And I want to actually take Jude's point up of like one night places versus, you know, regular places. And I want to talk to Rodney, because he owns a lesbian bar. And you're making money out of lesbians, you dirty capitalist pig.
Yep, very exploitative,
what do you
yeah.
think about? Oh, shut up. What do you think about ownership and of the venue as their space?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of curious as to why I got the Glass House when there were a number of other women's groups around who were vying for it at the same time. And I think it did come back to just that I had more money. That was kind of the reason that I was given.
Yeah.
Was that I had the financial backing to go in and renovate the place, replace all the equipment that were, you know, 2,000 years old, and make it work. So it really didn't come down to gender in the end. It came down to the dollars that were available.
But as was mentioned, is it easier?
Thing, yeah, money.
But I mean,
Is
bank
it-
managers, they only lend to men, don't they, mostly? Unless the woman's got a man next to her with a sound financial plan.
I don't think a bank manager would lend to a venue owner full stop.
But I mean, why is that bank, the Bendigo Bank?
But
open
he's,
up?
hang on, but he's really wealthy. He had a computer business first, and now he bought venues because he was bored and just rich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
we've heard the rumours about you, don't worry. But seriously about the ownership and the one night places. Trace, you've run a lot of one night places. You're a bit of a one night stand
That's
girl.
right.
She is, I'd watch her. What do you think about that?
I think it comes back to, as I said, it takes a long time for society to change, and traditionally, you know, apart from family businesses, things like hotels are small businesses, and that men have a strong history in starting small businesses, and women don't have that history. So it's not about being a lesbian, it's more a reflection of how many successful small business women are there versus small business men. And I think, I have to say, I was aware that the Glass House had came up, and, you know, it crossed my mind, but it did come down to money and balls in the end. And I think that, you know, I work for a living, and if for me to give up an income and take a plunge on an entrepreneurial thing like a small business, you would tend not to do it on your own for a start. Then you start thinking, well, who can I do it with? And then before you know it, the moment's gone. And I think that's something that I'm hoping with the next generation, you know, that maybe, though there mightn't be the call for the political activism, maybe the activism will be in much more an entrepreneurial venture where you'll get young lesbian going, right, I'm going to start this, or they'll have their own record labels, they'll have their own multimedia businesses, whereas we all used to just work. I'm very accustomed to working for somebody else, and that's probably a very typical women's experience, that they're good breadwinners, but not very good at being a risk taker. And that's something that I sort of work at in terms of, well, I'm good at spending other people's money and making it money for other people, but I'm much more tentative when someone says, hey, do you want to go partners in this?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have much, so you think, shit, you know, if I lose 20 grand, you know, that's
That's
another
what it
5 years of work, you know,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of things. So, yeah, I think that's changed.
Yeah, I think that was an important point. What came out of that for me was there was a point when taking over the Glass House where I had to make a leap of faith, where it was a very emotional decision, where it was like, you know, I had to counter all the fear of failure, and then I had to do that by myself. I'm the sole owner, whereas Tracey was immediately looking for a collective solution.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I always orientate towards doing it by myself. So that may be a cultural difference. That may be somewhere where the gay male culture is slightly different. We're more encouraged to stand alone and take a risk.
Yeah, which is very boyish stuff. I want to talk about separate kind of bars. The Lead, we go to the Lead every now and again because we love them. We want your money very soon, by the way, boys. In fact, we've got you on tape saying you're going to give us some money too. Boys-only venues. It was interesting. We did this interview down at the Lead, and, you know, being the usual rude self, was like, are you a misogynist? Don't you like girls? What's your problem? And that upset a few of the people. But actually, the majority of people that had it really worked out, they actually knew that they didn't have a problem with women. They just wanted a boys' space that they wanted to go to every now and again. Now, Jude, you talked about styles of spaces. Do you reckon we need to have a separate space, a women's-only space, like we used to, like the old Moore Street house? I used to go scared walking past the Moore Street house.
It's very different, the atmosphere that you walk into if you go to a women's only bar to a men's only bar and a mixed bar. And I don't know what it is that's in the testosterone, but it's nice not to have it there. And when you go into a women's only place,
So ultimately, out of this show, if a woman or a bunch of women got together and set up a space, that could really work. And you'd like to go to one every now and again, you and the
I
bunnies?
don't mind going every now and again, but I disagree with you that you know, any space that you can be, you get a different group of people, and they could be just as predatory. I think women can be just the same, but just in their own space.
Women
in their
can
own
be
space.
just as bad as men.
Yeah, in their own space as
I'm
well.
not disagreeing there.
What do you think, Trace?
Look, I think that there's the popularity of same-sex spaces has been fairly cyclic. Certainly in the old days, pre-80s or early 80s, there was a strong men-only scene with the mandates, the leads. Yet with the onslaught of HIV/AIDS, that all changed. All of a sudden, men were vulnerable, and the men-only scene really had to rethink it. The bathhouses, the saunas. At that point, the coalition politics, certainly in the scene, were well and truly born. Apart from before that, probably we only went to inflation on Wednesdays and maybe pokies on Sundays. Might have been the only days we mixed, but you know, pretty much the scenes were separate. Through the 80s and the fight against HIV, you saw the Peel, the lead going mixed. I mean, I actually bought Tex Perkins at a slave auction at the lead, and won a night at the gate.
As a Christian, did you make Tex a Christian?
Won a night at the gatehouse, but could never take it up because it was a men's-only venue. But and you'll find that it's been interesting that through that period, a lot of women venues like the Kingston Hotel and our regular run of women-only or mainly women venues went mixed. Now you find that with I suppose living under the shadow of the cure, you find that the lead has reapplied for a men-only space in terms of from the, you know, to legally allow discrimination, you know, to exclude women. You've got more saunas and bathhouses opening again in the last couple of years. Yet we haven't seen an equivalent rise in women's venues again.
On that level, keep going.
Well, but I think that in the last 12 months there's been that women, or mainly women venues, apart from the staples like Girl Bar, will come back into vogue, and there's things like the Drag Kings, the Melbourne Miss Leather Victoria type competitions are seeing a new ownership of it's actually groovy and it's okay to be in a women-defined space, not necessarily women only, in the same way as it's okay now for men to go. For different reasons, I've got to say, I feel sometimes I think it was like, well, it's great when we needed you, but now we're okay, so check you later sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's only, I think, a very small wedge that were really, you know, and I said because of the issues and that it was very sort of emotional, explosive. But I think that there's a great bar in Sydney at the moment that's called Girlesque, and it's actually a lesbian-run, totally full-on lesbian tabletop venue, and it's the hottest thing in Sydney at the moment. And I predict there'll be a lesbian tabletop girlesque bar
Okay, Tracey
in Melbourne
will
in the next 3
open it very shortly with Anna and the money from Rodney, and hell, you'll get your
that'd
money
be
from your
great.
Lesbiana magazine, and won't be able to go there. Okay, that's right.
Protest.
Yeah, we'll protest over nothing like a good boycott. We haven't had a good boycott for years.
Donna
against
Summer
the
was
bar.
my favourite. She was the best.
Which
Donna
one?
Summer, remember her?
Oh, yeah.
Should we? Is it okay to say that name these days?
Yeah.
So she's back. Like everything goes out in the cold, comes in from the cold, goes out.
Now,
in the cold.
you used to every now and again